various academic plan has been announced for rollout in January that may see 2 school terms covered by end of May. This means that by June, all learners will have started a new academic year that would run to end of December. In effect, all candidates will have covered all the lost schoolwork for this year and also complete the 2021 work, salvaging the imminent loss of an academic year. But just how possible is this even as schools are feeling the heat of COVID-19 that is ravaging the country, with tests on dozens of students and teachers turning out positive, while others actually go to that level that they succumb to the virus. Today, we look at the status of education in the country. We get to know what way forward and what needs to be done to ensure that our students are well catered for. Importantly, we'll also be taking a look at the aspect of infertility. That is later on the broadcast on the lifestyle segment. So much lined up for you this morning. We're taking a look at what is happening on the roads and importantly, what is there in the world of news. So welcome on board. My name is Linda Alela. This is Morning Cafe. It is always a pleasure to have you join us as I take you through, or we kickstart the day on a very, very good note. Be part of this conversation. Hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela TV47KE. We certainly value your feedback. The numbers to call will always be running down on your screen. Anything that we'll be discussing, we want to welcome your take on the same. Of course, you call us or you drop those messages. We sample them as we proceed with the show. And now, all schools will officially reopen for Term 2 on 4th January 2021 for all learners. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha says that the learners will then proceed for a 7-week holiday from the 19th March to allow Class 8 and Form 4 candidates to sit for their national examinations. Our Education Affairs reporter Sharon Baranga with the details.
The long wait from learners to reopen school and resume learning is almost over. This is after the government announced the 2021 school calendar that is set to resume for second term on the 4th of January next year to end on 19th March 2021.
This will apply to PP1 and 2, Grade 1, 2 and 3, Class 5, 6 and 7, and Form 1, 2 and 3 learners. 2. All 4-year-olds will join PP1 in July 2021.
Second term will last for 11 weeks and all the learners with exception on Class 8 and Form 4 candidates will break for a 7-week holiday before they resume learning for third term on 10th May 2021. And this is why.
To allow for KCPE and KCSE examination administration and marking.
The Kenya Certificate of Primary Education Examination KCPE will start on 22nd March 2021 and it will end on 24th March 2021, while the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Examination KCSE will begin on 26th March 2021 to end on 21st April 2021. Prior to this, the candidates will have completed their practicals and comprehension exams. And there is a tweak in the just designed timetable. Grade 4 pupils and Class 8 graduates who reopened school on the 12th October 2020 will stay at home as other learners complete their third term by 16th July 2021. In July, Grade 4 competency-based curriculum pupils will transition to Grade 5.
The government is determined to ensure a safe reopening and learning of our schools. In doing so, we are drawing important lessons from the partial reopening that has taken place since October. We are confident that we will remain on the right trajectory to finding the winning formula.
Over the last 1 month, we have been impressed by the work done by teachers to assist students to navigate the new regime of wearing masks, social distancing, and washing hands regularly. And we encourage our teachers not to drop the ball in the quest to make adherence to these protocols a social norm. These practices must be deeply entrenched in the learners' DNAs.
The education stakeholders came up with the 2021 school calendar a few days after President Uhuru Kenyatta issued a 2-week ultimatum to design one so that learners, teachers and parents could have a clear picture of when learning will resume after being home for months. Teachers above the age of 58 have, however, been advised to stay away from classes.
Historically, this has been the longest break learners have had on the school calendar that happened impromptu after schools were closed indefinitely in March as a result of COVID-19. But now the timetable is out and parents and learners have time to prepare for the official opening of schools next year. Sharon Baranga, TV 47.
Now, a US-based company has announced a 95% success of its experimental vaccine in preventing one from contracting COVID-19. This, as Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe once again dismisses the existence of a successful vaccine, as he warns that Kenya will not be used as guinea pigs in vaccine trials. Zainab Mohammed with the details.
Moderna, a US-based company, has announced 95% success of its experimental vaccine in preventing one from contracting COVID-19. The company that is the second one to announce a huge progress in the search for a vaccine after Pfizer vaccine says its interim analysis was based on 95 infections among trial participants who received either a placebo or the vaccine. Out of the 95 infections, only 5 infections have occurred in those who received the vaccine, which is administered in 2 shots 28 days apart. However, Health CS Mutahi Kagwe, who recently went viral for casting doubts on the effectiveness of a vaccine in the fight against COVID-19, has once again come out to rubbish the participation of Kenya in vaccine trials, saying Kenya will not be used as guinea pigs.
Nobody would want us to succeed in getting a vaccine more than the Ministry of Health and the government of the Republic of Kenya. That is why we are also involved through KEMRI, Wellcome Trust. We are also involved in the attempt to come up with a vaccine and to help people and to save lives. But let me also say this. Thus, Kenya will not also used as guinea pigs to test vaccines that are essentially not cleared.
According to Kagwe, despite the government championing the efforts for the search of a COVID-19 vaccine, it will be extra careful in selecting which trials to participate in.
The side effects that we have seen with vaccines that have already been launched, then you can understand why we want the vaccine yesterday, but we are also cautious. And those who are rushing to tell us about the vaccines are the ones who will rush to condemn us when we start getting people dying or having serious side effects.
This even as the country today records a total of 559 infections, 478 recoveries, and 18 deaths. The government maintains that the search for a COVID-19 vaccine is a work in progress, and that Kenya will not be used as guinea pigs in vaccine trials that have not been tried and tested. Zainab Mohammed, TV 47, Nairobi.
Well, that even as a Form 4 candidate at Lureko Secondary School in Mumias West, Kakamega County has succumbed to COVID-19. 18 other students from various neighboring schools have tested positive, as Andren Kilemi tells us.
COVID-19 infections have constantly been reported in various schools across the country, with Lureko Secondary School in Mumias joining the list of schools that have already reported cases of COVID-19. A Form 4 student succumbed to COVID-19, though reports indicate she had other complications. Confirming the reports, Kakamega County Health CEC Collins Matemba said the student was first rushed to St. Mary's Hospital before being transferred to Life Care Private Hospital, where she was announced dead. Speaking on Monday, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe said the government is taking necessary measures to control the spread of the virus in schools, and institutions that will report COVID-19 cases might be shut with immediate effect.
We have said we will take serious surgical measures so that if there are infections in any school, we will close that institution. And on schools that don't have any infections, then we do not have to close those institutions. And as for opening in January, as we have said often, that's an aim. That's something we hope we can be able to do. But of course, you know, there is no hard and fast rule that says if the infections have gone above control or we are being overwhelmed, then we have to live up to that particular statement.
The Ministry of Health is evaluating COVID-19 in schools before making a conclusive decision on reopening fully.
Even though we have recorded cases, the available space in terms of infrastructure has ensured that we are able to isolate those cases and learning has continued uninterrupted. Why is it important to open schools? Because school is the safest corridor for students and pupils to be able to achieve their full potential.
Already, the Ministry of Education has announced that schools will reopen fully in January 4th, 2021. Andrin Kilemi, TV 47.
Now, COVID-19 infections are continuously roaming into different counties in the country, forcing some to scale down their operations. As a result, Kilifi County government has announced stiff measures aimed at curbing the spread of COVID-19 in the county effective Monday for the next 2 weeks. Nanok Loren with that report.
Kilifi County government has announced stiff measures aimed at curbing the spread of COVID-19 in the county, which has been rising in the past 2 weeks. The measures include the ban of all tournaments and political rallies in the county, with Kilifi County Governor Amason Kingi saying the new measures are set to take place immediately to see how the response will be to either warrant more strict measures if the situation will not have changed. In the past 1 week, 7 bars have been shut down, with more than 800 people being arrested for flouting COVID-19 rules.
Kwa hivyo kuanzia leo kwenda mbele mpaka ile wakati tumeona kwamba visa hivi vimeanza kulegea, vimeanza kudidimia na vimeanza kupungua kwa pakubwa, hakutakuwa na tournament yoyote ambayo itafanyika katika kaunti yetu. Na hakika hata Mombasa tumekubaliana pia nao watafanya lile.
Zile mabaa ambayo tumefunga ni 7. Wale watu wameshikwa kutovaa mask ni 454. Wale watu wameshikwa kwa sababu ya kukeuka sheria za curfew ni 419.
Elsewhere, Kirinyaga County headquarters have been shut down following COVID-19 infections. The county boss, Anne Waiguru, has directed the office's closure for a period of 2 weeks, with county officers expected to develop plans to ensure critical departmental functions are performed while observing COVID-19 guidelines. And operations at Murang'a County headquarters have been scaled down after a surge in COVID-19 infections. Employees of Murang'a County government who do not offer essential services have been sent home for a 14-day leave after an increase in the rate of infections. Last week, public health officers backed by police netted more than 200 people in the 8 sub-counties for violating COVID-19 protocols.
Effective today, we have scaled down our operations at all the county offices due to increased cases of COVID-19.
As a result, Health CS Mutai Kagwe has directed the County National Response Committee to hold emergency meetings and begin considering surgical measures in the affected counties, as well as assess the county's preparedness and the status of PPEs.
County National Emergency Response Committees on COVID-19, co-chaired by governors and county commissioners, should hold emergency meetings and immediately start considering county-specific surgical measures to curtail the spread of the virus in the respective counties. This is in recognition of the fact that the attack rate in the country is different now from county to county, noting that the county has adequate stocks of the country, has adequate stocks of personal protective equipment. County governments are advised to source the same from Kenya Medical Supplies at prevailing market rates. This is in accordance with the agreement between the Ministry, the Council of Governors, and Parliament.
After convening a meeting with the Kenya Medical Pharmacists and Dentists Union KMPDU, Kagwe has also instructed the NHIF to conclude the negotiation on insurance cover and medical requests and demands made by the union and announce their conclusion and effectiveness tomorrow.
We have instructed the National Insurance Hospital Fund to quickly conclude the negotiations for comprehensive group life, last expense, enhanced work and injury benefits, and group personal accident cover for COVID-19 as approved by the Cabinet, and announce the conclusion and effectiveness of those insurance benefits tomorrow.
Nanok Lauren, TV 47.
And Deputy President William Ruto has maintained that the BBI process should not be rushed, insisting for the improvement of its presentation and content. According to him, the BBI proponents must loosen their hard stance on some of the issues in the document, adding that it's regrettable that the report has turned out to be a divisive tool for the country's top leadership.
Deputy President William Ruto has once again castigated the proponents of the BBI report, opposed to amendments in the report. DP Ruto insisting that there should be no rush in passing the document if it has the best interest of Kenyans at heart.
And all other Kenyans who have views to enrich the BBI document, they are telling us they have no time because they had a whole 2 years to bring their views. I am asking them respectfully that the document we have, which has taken us 2 years, has so many gaps and is so controversial that unless you accommodate the views of the various stakeholders, we will end up with a lose-lose outcome.
According to the DP, the country is headed to a lose-lose outcome from the BBI report, adding that the costly 2-year final product still has a lot of glaring gaps. A section of political factions have proposed amendments in the report.
Those who will attempt to pass this document will end up with a bad constitution. And those who want to enrich this document will have lost an opportunity to enrich the document so that we can end up with a better document.
This even as ODM leader Raila Odinga continues to reiterate that there is no room for divergent views on the BBI report, saying the country is set for a referendum.
Everybody here approves without reservation the draft document that is now being presented to the people of Kenya. There are of course those naysayers, and they are always there, even in the Bible.
It means there was something that did not add up, and the work that was done was not entirely correct or was not entirely professional. So there is an opportunity for us to improve on the presentation and on the recommendations so that we can end up with a win-win outcome instead of a lose-lose outcome.
The collection of 1 million signatures in support of the report is expected to kick off on Thursday this week. Mombichege, TV 47.
Well, that story by Mombichege takes us for a short break. We're coming back with more on the newspapers and later on the discussion, so don't you go anywhere.
Life is a journey, and we all have ups and downs, highs and lows, and celebrities are no exception.
Do you know I couldn't pay rent? Do you know there's a time I went 3 days without food? If you read my book, I ate Colgate for dinner.
On Coffee with Movie, we get up close and personal.
Nilizaliwa hivyo. Yes, mimi sijawahi ona.
We have candid conversations that are inspiring.
Na acha nikwambie, mtu mmebarikiwa na mlikuwa nyote mko kwa line, mko kwa foleni. Huyu akibarikiwa sio ametoka, bado foleni inasonga. Wewe ni next.
Humorous.
This is going to be the craziest interview ever.
And life-changing.
Success is value system and the legacy you leave.
Coffee with Movie, every Sunday at 8 p.m. only on TV 47. Every muscle, every bone is our concern.
A lot of pressure with both your hands, you're going to collapse the infant's chest.
Any pain.
There you go. You can come down, come down, come down.
Any discomfort. We have just the right doctor.
I'm a consultant breast surgeon.
I'm an emergency care specialist.
A chiropractor.
With just the right remedy.
Majority of patients will actually just require supportive treatment.
Join us on Body Garage every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. because we care. How do you like your meals? Sweet and tasty or spicy and savory? On the Throwdown, we bring you our chef of the day. He gives you ideas on how to make amazing meals from the comfort of your home. Every Sunday from 6:30 p.m. Life is a journey, and we all have ups and downs, highs and lows, and celebrities are no exception.
Do you know I couldn't pay rent? Do you know there's a time I went 3 days without food? If you read my book, I ate Colgate for dinner.
On Coffee with Movie, we get up close and personal.
Nilizaliwa hivyo? Yes. Mimi sijawahi ona.
We have candid conversations that are inspiring.
Na acha nikwambie, mtu mmebarikiwa na mlikuwa nyote mko kwa line, mko kwa foleni. Huyu akibarikiwa si ametoka, bado foleni inasonga. Wewe ni next.
Humorous.
This is going to be the craziest interview ever.
And life-changing.
Success is value system and the legacy you leave.
Coffee with Movie, every Sunday at 8 p.m. only on TV 47. Every muscle, every bone is our concern.
A lot of pressure with both your hands, you're going to collapse the infant's chest.
Any pain.
There you go. You can come down, come down, come down.
Any discomfort. We have just the right doctor.
I'm a consultant breast surgeon.
I'm an emergency care specialist.
A chiropractor.
With just the right remedy.
Majority of patients will actually just require supportive treatment.
Join us on Body Garage every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. because we care.
And Jared Oundor, he is the lead consultant, Jubilant Stewards of Africa, joins us this morning for the newspaper review. Welcome on board. Once again, it is important that we know what is happening in the world of news before we delve into the discussion. And as always, the newspapers, we have People Daily and the Standard newspaper and the Daily Nation. So keep it right here as we take a look at the key stories captured. And Jared, good morning.
Good morning, Linda. How are you?
Good to have you. I'm good. You've been well? It's long since we had you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so let's start off with the People Daily as always. Key stories. One story that has been captured here that is a little bit special but also scaring is a story that is on page 12. Horror of a children's theft syndicate. Babies are going for as little as 30,000 shillings in Nairobi. Let's go to that page. That is page 12. And Jared, really, this is not the first time that this is happening, even though it has been reported that the cases are going higher and higher. Just recently, we had a mother who was selling the baby at 1,000 bob. I mean, I do not understand how desperate one can get. But that is the reality on ground, that most of the people will tell you that probably we fear having our kids because, well, after all, we do not have ways and means of raising them. So one would be willing to sell their own child for as little as 1,000 bob. Well, this report, though, speaks of a situation where babies are snatched from streets, families, or bought from vulnerable mothers. Africa Eye infiltrated the trafficking rings selling children for as little as 30,000. Do we still have you, Jared?
Yes, I'm still here. Unfortunately, I'm not able to see your screen. That's what I was trying to touch your side.
You're not able to see? That's strange.
Able to see.
You can have your TV, just a moment, we're fixing that. But meanwhile, if you're able to, have the TV on, just keep talking anyway. But yes, such as, I hope you've heard me well.
I have the paper with me here.
Ah, good.
So
all right.
So basically, yeah. So will you mind repeating so that we put everybody together?
Sorry?
So inside that was that in Nairobi.
I don't know why I'm not able to hear you well. But the People Daily, I'm talking about the People Daily, the page, that is page 12, equally a story captured on the front page in regards to the dark world of Nairobi's selling of kids for as little as 30,000. These babies snatched from street families or brought from vulnerable mothers.
So normally, okay, this happens sometimes in this country. It's so sad and unfortunate that mothers are not able to give back to their children and they are not able to take care of them. So what leads them to do that is because they want to run out of poverty. In some say it's better I give back to a child and sell that child instead of me having maybe aborting that particular child. But for me, I think once God gives you a child, just continue being that child, because one way or the other, He gave you the child and He'll be able to take care of the child. In Swahili one, and there's a song that says, Mungu akileta mtu analeta na sahani yake. So and also I think it's not, it's illegal to do that, to sell an infant. It's very illegal. So we just try, as men, when you are giving a woman a child, always ensure to be responsible, because most of the time we realize that the men who did that, some are not very responsible, and of course they deny the child, and it forces women or ladies to do that. What happens here is that some of those street families that you see, you'll be shocked that the fathers of those children are not in the streets. Basically, some people who are sober. I have heard stories that they go and drag those street families, live with them. That's how we end up having those unwanted children.
Well, anyway, that's pretty much unfortunate report, but equally the reality on ground, how that can be tamed is equally a question of wait and see. But to drop the same subject into another, COVID-19 cover for medics as a second vaccine gets critical nod, and government will provide insurance for healthcare workers as Moderna, as U.S. company says, its vaccine has a 94.5% efficacy, the second in 2 weeks. A story captured on page 5 of the People Daily, even as we continue talking about the surge of numbers in the country. And even worse, the fact that, yes, we're being told that even the insurer, that is the national insurer, is not able to cater for patients who have been diagnosed with COVID-19. Now, COVID cover for medics as second vaccine gets nod. Probably would this come in handy to ensure that we do not have the strikes that linger today, and that poses to more danger, especially when you see the frontline workers saying that they're going to down their tills simply because they feel like the government is not taking good care of them. And of course, not forgetting the phaser, that is the vaccine that is coming from abroad, in as much as CS Cargo on the other hand has argued that we are not going to be used as guinea pigs. Maybe it is time that we probably wait more to see whether indeed the vaccine is legit enough to get us off the woods.
I think it's long overdue. We could have had that medical cover for our doctors, for our medics, and clinical officers, and any other person who works in the hospital. It's unfortunate that we are we go to those doctors when we need. We're able to pay our medical bills, and those doctors cannot even take care of themselves, let alone their families. They die, some of them die because they are not able to afford to pay a particular medical operation. So I think this is something that will have come long time ago. And I think that they're not just doing this because they say they will be striking. And once everything cools and gets back to normal, we remove it. No, some of the time this country things are very funny. We say they're doing this and we don't implement it. It's my hope that this will be fully implemented so that our doctors can be able to enjoy service like any other citizen. Then basically when we do that, they will also be able to do their work wholeheartedly, not worrying about themselves, about their conditions. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And briefly on matters education, we'll be taking a look at that as we proceed. That is today. Our special focus is on education. It's 2-year crash schools calendar and timetable. It will be a marathon for learners who are expected to cover 3 years of schooling in 24 months when the rest of classes resume. That is on January 4th, 2021. Page 4 of the People Daily speaks of this calendar that we'll be looking at later on. And according to CS George Magoha, he says that we are drawing important lessons from the partial reopening that has taken place since October. So here we are. And officially, we know that our students are going back to school in January or on January the 4th.
Yeah, I'm wondering why we are rushing to the country, because some of the time, we'll be forcing our children to be in school. We have not taken care of all the medical conditions or requirements that we need to have in terms of ensuring that the learners are safe in school. Because look at it now, how things are in this particular country. Most schools, go to a school in Mukuru Ruben. How many students are in that particular class? You realize that classes are currently overcrowded. Even now that we only have class 4 and class 8 in schools, the schools are still not able to accommodate those particular numbers. Initially, I have happened to have visited a number of schools in slums, and I know the situation there. You realize one class has over 100 children. 100 pupils in one class, the teacher is not able to handle. There have been no social distancing. Some of them didn't even have desks to start with. So, I think we had there's a program that the government has started of making desks for the schools. And my question is, yes, we have made desks, but I don't think that has been successful. Yes, I assume we have made the Strataris Paribas. What will happen? Why will we put this desk? Because we don't have enough classrooms. If it has taken us more than 3 months or so to put this place in place, how long will it take us to have enough classrooms for this particular? So I think we should start with classrooms first, ensure we construct enough classrooms. And you'll be shocked. You remember the school in Kawangware where the students died because they were overcrowded in class, and that was before the coronavirus. There's a school in July 45, whereby that school has over 4,000 pupils. So there's no Jesus. I think it's high time we take care of this and utilize the resources. I think it's good. For me, if you have to ask me, there will have been no hurry of taking the students to school if we have not prepared enough infrastructure and facilities for these particular students. Basically, you have seen the number of children that have been infected by the virus has increased as opposed to the previous time, because the situation they are in school. But when they are home, I think they are more safer, and they are not. When they are safer where they are in the villages as opposed to where they are now in the school. Thank you.
All right, well, we drop that one and we see how it's going to culminate. We'll be discussing that extensively with education experts later on. But to page 2, MP, my painful COVID-19 experience and treatment. Member of Parliament narrates ordeal after he tested positive through to the full recovery in hospital. That is Mkurweni, Member of Parliament Aderin Kiai. who's narrated this. Pretty much unfortunate that we still have people in the country arguing that the virus is not in existence when you still see people coming out to give their experiences. Indeed, it is important that we stay woke. But on the very same page, Sonko in outburst over blackmail in running Nairobi city finances, and they can jail me, but there is life in prison. They can impeach me, but there is also life after politics. They can even kill me, but there is life after death, where my father is resting in peace, and even the founding father, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, is also resting in peace. Did it really have to get to this point?
Yeah. Well, I think maybe I start with the Mkueni MP. Yes, he has just confirmed that there's COVID-19. All of us, some of us, initially used to ask ourselves, have you ever seen someone with COVID-19? Have you heard of a suspected case? Do you know anyone? Now it's not the question that if you know anyone who has COVID-19. Yeah. As we speak today, I have a number of friends who are COVID-19 positive. And it is sad that they are positive. Some of them went out reckless. Of course, some of them just got it innocently without knowing or cannot trace where they got it. It's unfortunate when you go to slums. I'm not sure whether they've been around. You meet pastors, they're just greeting the congregants are greeting each other. Leave alone that, even drunkards in the bars, they're greeting each other. Go to Mukuru kwa Ruben, go to Mukuru kwa Njenga. I was in Kawangware on Sunday. There's nothing like social distance. People are greeting each other, people are hugging each other. No one is putting on masks. They forgot about this particular. I'm still in this particular country. Yeah. So we need to take care of ourselves. We should not drop guard yet. If we have not seen someone, it doesn't basically mean that it's not catch you. So we need to be careful. And then going to the Sonko story, I think Sonko's remarks are a bit unfortunate, and that kind of attitude is a poor mentality. And if Sonko had the right attitude, he could have not been in the mess that we are currently in. I think he is the reason why we are here today. And he's not the one to be blamed. We are the ones to be blamed. We had better candidates during the last election, but we decided to do what? To crucify Jesus and release Abbas, and this is where we are today. Saying, reaching at that particular point, no, it's not about him. It's about the people, the Nairobi residents. It's about us, not about Sonko. So I think he should get back to his senses and look at how things are and work for the people who voted for him and not himself.
Okay, well, we leave that one. And actually, before I go to another page, Uhuru calls for peaceful end to Ethiopian conflict. President Uhuru Kenyatta has urged parties to internal conflict in Ethiopia to find peaceful means to end the crisis. Yes, he has cautioned against a full-blown conflict in the country, saying Kenya and Ethiopia have for long served as anchor states for regional peace and stability. He urged the federal government and the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front, that is TPLF, to de-escalate the conflict, saying the crisis risks eroding gains made by Ethiopians in developing their countries. Such is happening in Africa, even as we also ask this question on the front page, which way for Kenya, as of course US, on the US free trade deal, a story captured on page 8, and technically which way for Africa after that change of guard coming in, that is President-elect Joe Biden. I do not know what you make of this integration and importantly the stability of the regions. So
for me, the peace in Ethiopia basically means peace in Africa. Lack of peace or political instability in Ethiopia means that we will have problems in the entire Africa. Ethiopia is a very important country. Look at it, it's one of those countries that was not colonized. It's one of the countries that if they decide to do something, they'll do it the way they want. They are fighters but naturally they are fighters, and for me, they sit down as brothers. I don't want to see what is happening in Somalia, happening in Ethiopia, what happened in Mali, happening in Ethiopia, what happened in South Sudan, happening in Ethiopia. It's a high time, just like here, what President Uhuru said, that our neighbors need another handshake. So if it's a handshake that will bring peace in Ethiopia, then this is the time. Everyone, elections come so that we have the right to choose a leader. So, and if we feel that so and so did not win, it's not a matter for those ones who won to say that it's me who won, and we cannot accept to dialogue with the other ones.
Yeah.
So it's for me, they should sit together and say this is our country, and we should not have that attitude. It's me, and myself alone. So we know that the peace in Ethiopia is peace to all of us, and we as their neighbors, we should help them to have peace in their country. The same way we have struggled to ensure that Tanzania is peaceful, we should do the same. The same way we have struggled when South Sudan were fighting. Remember John Garang and their team, Riek Machar. We have been at the forefront of ensuring that Riek Machar and Salva Kiir coexist peacefully. And if Ethiopia is not stable, Northern Kenya will not be stable, because the Rendile community will be affected. We'll have illegal firearms coming in, and even some of our people, young men, will be going there. And at the end of it, we might disrupt the world, disrupt here. And that go to South Sudan. Most of the South Sudanese and Ethiopians, they share an origin. Not sure whether you know that.
Yes, I do.
The same with that will also affect Djibouti, Eritrea, and even Somalia.
Wow.
The peace in Ethiopia is very important.
Okay, well, that is on page 2, and crossing over to page 3, and on matters continental and also global governance, Kenya has been placed 14th in the Continental Governance Index. That report, however, says the trends showcased by the countries do not tell the full story. And equally, the report speaks of a scenario where there is poor leadership, or the level of leadership has gone down. That is the prestigious Mohammed Ibrahim Index of Africa Governance has ranked Kenya at that particular point. And according to the report released annually by the Mo Ibrahim Foundation, Africa's governance performance declined for the first time in a decade in 2019. According to the report released yesterday, Kenya scored 58.5% in overall governance to emerge 14th in the rankings, and Mauritius scooped the top position again with 77.2%, followed by Cabo Verde, that is at 73.1%. So much so, I think we'll be expounding on this report sometimes later this week as we review on matters African issues, and we drop that one. New twist in Magoha insult clip after EACC summons education officials for statement. I think that one will also be taking a look later on as we take a look at the status of education, students' inventions to solve global issues. Also, we discuss as we proceed, learners brace for marathon as classes resume. We also discuss that later on, insurance to meet bills for teachers who contract coronavirus. That also we discuss as we proceed. And COVID-19 cases, KRA staff charged with corruption granted 200,000 bail. Still on matters graft, I do not know how we are faring on. I don't know what you'd make of what we are doing as a country right now. Not so much of corruption cases that we hear of today. And, we are just worried that maybe once we're done with the pandemic, we might just receive a shocker in regards to the numerous cases of corruption that have been conducted without us knowing, without us focusing on the same.
KRA for me is one of the most corrupt institutions that we ever have in this particular country. If today you are open that you are farm, you wanted to do business, and you basically wanted to get a KRA certificate or basically a KRA PIN, especially when you are running a non-profit institution like ourselves, you will be able to, it will not be easy for you to get that KRA PIN. You will be taken through circles. I remember for us when we were doing that, we went through a very hard time. Then, of course, that's one of the slightest things that you can say. The other thing is you realize there's a vehicle that came in this country, that vehicle did not pay enough taxes as required. So who is there to blame? Because some KRA official was able to take some money and was not able to remit as per required. And even some of the time you realize the owners pay and they are told it has been cleared, and someone took that money. And it's not just KRA. We have heard a lot of these particular things as far as corruption is concerned. Look at the schools getting a Form 1 selection. Some of the time, want to get a Form 1 slot. A student might have been given a slot, say a school like, let me not mention name, those big schools. We were victims those years. When I was in school, I was called in one of the schools that I don't want to mention.
Yeah.
But we were reporting, we were told that my slot was taken by someone else, and for me to get that slot back, what we basically need to do is pay some amount. So we didn't have that particular amount, and we ended up going to a school that could accommodate us. And even in this particular small school, we also realized the cut-off marks, or the marks that they're supposed to do, the NC marks is 370, but you realize they are admitting students with 290 marks. How did they end up with 240 marks? Because they were able to pay something. Look at even in the roads, there are those, even like the other day I was driving from Umoja. You realize the route that had personal cars, that particular police officer was not opening that particular route, and he was opening the ones with the matatus, because the matatus, they pay that police officer so that they are able to open the roads, because for them they are rushing somewhere other than not rushing. And even in churches, it is sad that person with a deep pocket, whoever is able to pay a pastor something, that's the person that is given attention. But you who is not able to do that, it's a sad state. Even in our political parties, when we will go to the next general election, you realize that someone who emerged number 7 out of maybe 14 candidates is the one who is declared a winner. The one who emerged number 1 has not been declared a winner because he didn't take enough tea. Not sure whether you saw what Junet Mohammed was talking about, that for him to get the party ticket for his particular party, he was able to take enough tea. So it's sad. So it's for us, if we are able to get rid of corruption in this particular country, because today we are not able to pay medical bills for those ones affected with COVID-19. And we receive huge amounts from Jack Ma, from everywhere, the world, WHO, name them, IMF, World Bank, they gave us money. Where is that particular money? But we are able to have money to do other things. So it's a mistake. If we are able to live by our words and live as a corruption-free country, we'll really go further.
All right. Okay, and speaking of which, DPP wants new bench for Ojamong graft hearing. That is the latest in regards to that. 2 charged for conspiring to defraud through fake tender. And that's an interesting one. That is Ongayolo, who has been charged 3.9 million falsely pretending they would secure him a tender at Kenya Medical Supply Authority. Also, the fraud one, Onyangolo is the one who's been defrauded by John Ochieng Goja and Joshua Mugiza. That aside, as we get to wind up on the People Daily, divisive referendum will have no winners, Ruto tells Raila, and this has been a constant call from the DP. Another story also on Matters Politics, the NASA trio won't get a penny from party kitties. Wiper Ford Kenya and ANC will not get any monies because registrar says it does not fund coalitions. That's an interesting one. I'd love to hear your take on that briefly, maybe in about 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, I was reading about that, I think at midnight. Okay, for me, I look at it as selfishness. You know, with the 3 parties went out, or 4 of them actually went out as one entity. You know, even if it's ODM that got most of the seats, they could have not gotten that without the backing from these other parties. And if the ANC did not back them, you know, they could have not got an inroad in Kakamega County, where they harvested a lot. Even in Vihiga County, where Musalia Mudavadi comes from, you realize that the governor of Vihiga is an ODM candidate. And that is because there's a peaceful coexistence between the NASA president and Mudavadi. If Mudavadi could not back Raila Amolo Odinga, you know, it could have been even harder for him to campaign there. And because of that brotherliness, and Raila used his own tactics to be able to divide the votes in Vihiga. And that's why my former lecturer, Dr. Patrick Traisi, were able to get this governor's position. And I think they should be able to share, even if assume the other parties go to 0 and they need them the next election, they'll still need them, even if they didn't need them again. it's important that you share the little that you have, and that one also creates an amicus or a domicile, local domicile environment that will be able to help them to work together in unity. And if they are not able to share next election, be assured that they will not work together, be able to work together peacefully as this, because the other people see them as people that they cannot trust, the selfish people. So for me, is that at least they share with them something small.
Yeah. All right, and of course, the Daily Nation has equally more or less the same stories, but different also. Fatuma Zarika, why I had to quit boxing. That's a story on page 39. And members of parliament furious as senators plot coup on vetting. A story captured on the back page. Olympic champion charged with defilement. A story on page 12. But the biggest story, race to save the lost year. That is in regards to the reopening of schools of students. That should be somewhere in January as declared. We'll be discussing matters education as we proceed. But as we get to wind up this story here, Tuju, we want Uhuru at helm of Jubilee after 2022. In an exclusive interview, Jubilee Party Secretary General reveals why the leadership of the ruling party might not change anytime soon, but not everyone is clapping on. A story captured on page 4 and 5. This is what he says: I don't talk for him, that is the president, but I want to state that there is consensus, especially from those of us holding senior positions in the party, that the party still needs his passion to bring this country together. What do you make of that as we wind up?
For me, I think if I was President Uhuru Kenyatta, I could have stepped down after 2022 so that we are able to have young brains, rather people to continue the party. Because it's unfortunate that this particular country, that people don't want to give leadership. And you see, we'll not be able to have good leaders. You know, some of these people who are saying Uhuru Kenyatta should continue. Do you want to tell me if we were to put Raphael Tuju at the helm of the Jubilee Party, he cannot run the party as a party leader? Or even the likes of those other people you call the Murado or whatever, if they are to be properly trained. Unfortunately, this country, we are full of politics of it's actually hypocrisy, psychophancy. They want to do that so that they get favors within the government. I know the issue they are passing through. You know what Tuju is passing through. So making such statements will make him get favors with the president. Unfortunately, Tuju is my good friend who is making this particular remark. I'll call him today and tell him the time that he advises the president to call it an end of era in 2022 and have someone else take over. Because this country is not suffering from scarcity of leaders. What this country is suffering from is scarcity of leaders and principles. So it's good, it's a high time they train someone else, and the Uhuru should go and do other things. Just like Barack Obama, he left. He was younger than President Uhuru Kenyatta. I have much respect for Uhuru Kenyatta. My humble request that you train someone else, you met someone else, even if that means that you will be Jared the window. So we are able to, I want to assure you that we're able to take care of the Jubilee Party if you are to give us that. Although I'm not a member.
Well, thank you so much. Briefly, what is on the Standard newspaper? Ruto hosts MCAs in new wave of BBI talks inside Nairobi's baby buying ring. I think we've talked about that. And what's new for schools calendar? Certainly we've touched on that. And fresh hope for world in COVID-19 fight in regards to that vaccine from the US. And that's more like it. Thank you so much, Jared Ondo, for the great insights. That's where we get to wind up this segment of Morning Cafe newspaper review. We come to you later on the broadcast as we discuss matters education. Make sure that you're part and parcel of the conversation. That is after this break. Thank you.
Is a journey, and we all have ups and downs, highs and lows, and celebrities are no exception.
Do you know I couldn't pay rent? Do you know there's a time I went 3 days without food? If you read my book, I ate Colgate for dinner.
On Coffee with Mbuvi, we get up close and personal.
Nilizaliwa hivyo. Yes. Mimi sijawahi ona.
We have candid conversations that are inspiring.
Na acha nikwambie, mtu mmebarikiwa na mlikuwa nyote mko kwa line, mko kwa foleni. Huyu akibarikiwa si ametoka, bado foleni nasonga. Wewe ni next.
Humorous.
This is going to be the craziest interview ever.
And life-changing.
Success is value system and the legacy you leave.
Coffee with Movie, every Sunday at 8 p.m. only on TV 47. Every muscle, every bone is our concern.
Put a lot of pressure with both your hands, you're going to collapse the infant's chest.
Any pain,
There you go. You can calm down, calm down, calm down.
any
calm down.
discomfort, we have just the right doctor.
I'm a consultant breast surgeon.
I'm an emergency care specialist.
A chiropractor.
With just the right remedy.
Majority of patients will actually just require supportive treatment.
Join us on Body Garage every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. because we care. How do you like your meals? Sweet and tasty or spicy and savory? On the Throwdown, we bring you our chef of the day. He gives you ideas on how to make amazing meals from the comfort of your home. Every Sunday from 6:30 p.m. Life is a journey, and we all have ups and downs, highs and lows, and celebrities are no exception.
Do you know I couldn't pay rent? Do you know there's a time I went 3 days without food? If you read my book, I ate Colgate for dinner.
On Coffee with Movie, we get up close and personal.
Nilizaliwa hivyo. Yes. Mimi sijawahi ona.
We have candid conversations that are inspiring.
Na acha nikwambie, mtu amebarikiwa na mlikuwa nyote mko kwa line, mko kwa foleni. Huyu akibarikiwa si ametoka, bado foleni nasonga. Wewe ni next.
Humorous.
This is going to be the craziest interview ever.
And life-changing.
Success is value system and the legacy you leave.
Coffee with Movie, every Sunday at 8 p.m. only on TV 47. Every muscle, every bone is our concern.
Put a lot of pressure with both your hands, you're going to collapse the infant's chest.
Any pain,
There you go. You can calm down, calm down, calm down. calm
any
down.
discomfort, we have just the right doctor.
I'm a consultant breast surgeon.
I'm an emergency care specialist.
A chiropractor.
With just the right remedy.
Majority of patients will actually just require supportive treatment.
Join us on Body Garage every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. because we care. How do you like your meals? Sweet and tasty or spicy and savory? On the Throwdown, we bring you our chef of the day. He gives you ideas on how to make amazing meals from the comfort of your home. Every Sunday from 6:30 p.m. Life is a journey, and we all have ups and downs, highs and lows, and celebrities are no exception.
Do you know I couldn't pay rent? Do you know there's a time I went 3 days without food? If you read my book, I ate Colgate for dinner.
On Coffee with Movie, we get up close and personal.
Nilizaliwa hivyo. Yes. Mimi sijawahi ona.
We have candid conversations that are inspiring.
Na acha nikwambie, mtu amebarikiwa na mlikuwa nyote mko kwa line, mko kwa foleni. Huyu akibarikiwa si ametoka, bado foleni nasonga. Wewe ni next.
Humorous.
This is going to be the craziest interview ever.
and life-changing.
Success is value system and the legacy you leave.
Coffee with Movie, every Sunday at 8 p.m. only on TV 47. Every muscle, every bone is our concern.
A lot of pressure with both your hands, you're going to collapse the infant's chest.
Any pain,
There you go. You can calm down, calm down, calm down.
any discomfort, we have just the right doctor.
I'm a consultant breast surgeon.
I'm an emergency care specialist.
A chiropractor.
With just the right remedy.
Majority of patients will actually just require supportive treatment.
Join us on Body Garage every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. because we care. How do you like your meals? Sweet and tasty.
And welcome back to the broadcast. Let's briefly take a look at what is happening on the roads. We first start off, at the coast. It's important that we are all inclusive. And right here, as you can see, we have the map down there in Mombasa. And we'll start off right here at, that is Tononoka. As you can see, clearly there's not so much of traffic in Mombasa. This is Tononoka, where we can see that it's not so bad. And of course, we have Kisauni right here, pretty much not so bad. As always say that when you see the green color, it tells you that the roads are not badly off. The yellow, at least some bit of traffic. It gets to red, some bit of traffic, not so much that is moving. But when you get that dark red or that maroon field, then you're certainly sure that, of course, there's so much traffic. I do not know whether it's because of the COVID-19 scenario that the roads are not badly off, or maybe people are still not out there to go to the offices. It's not still badly off in most of these particular roads. Bikaye, equally not bad. We're coming to these sides of Mamba Village and Wild Waters Beach Road. Pretty much a cool of a scenario, as you can see right there. Links Road is pretty much sane. Down there, Nyali Beach, Holiday, all this way coming to this particular direction is not badly off. Let's cross over to this other side and see what we can get on this other side of Mkomani. And we come to this side and really not so much of traffic. Mizani Moja, Kuruma Road is pretty much okay also. Let's cross over where there's some bit of red here. Well, towards Likoni, as always, you'd expect to get something in regards to traffic on these sides of the ferry. As you can see, that's some bit as you're headed to this direction. But equally, it is not as bad as you would always see it on normal occurrences. This is for Florida Nightclub. As you can see, headed towards the ferry, not badly off. And yes, let's zoom in a little bit so at least you're able to see. Yes, clearly not so bad. This is just probably that traffic that is human traffic that would, of course, cause us to get this scenario where some bit of vehicles that are headed to that direction would cause some bit of traffic. The Khan Academy Mombasa, that Marsa Beach Road in Mombasa, equally not badly off. So that is to tell you the roads are not as bad at the coast in regards to the same. Let's go to this other side and see whether there's much. Literally nothing much. Lumumba Road is pretty much okay. Kingorani State Junction, all these directions, pretty much not bad. Shimanzi Road, KPA Gate 12, equally not as bad. Then that means Chuda Primary School, that is the Chuda Road, PCA Road, not so bad. Kibarani Reception Park, all this direction is not as bad. Makupa Causeway, some bit of traffic on this particular side, I guess because of the numerous industries that you find on this particular direction, but not so bad as, of course, one would say would be able to stay there for a long time. Let's cross over to Nairobi, or come back to Nairobi, and here we are starting up from this particular point that I'm in, that is Westlands. And yes, as you can see, this side of Westlands, not so bad. Parklands Road, not so bad there. And yes, coming to these sides of Ngara West, equally not so bad. Chiromo, not so bad. The one to, yes, this side of Aga Khan. It looks like there's a bit of traffic. This, yes, and this side of City Road as you're headed to this side of Aga Khan, clearly, or this side of Parklands. Some bit of traffic down here, but of course it shows that it's moving because we're not at that point of maroon or that point of dark red. And let's go to the other parts of Nairobi, see what other sides we can look at. Here we are, some bit of traffic. I'm looking at places where I need to warn you so that you do not get traffic. And these sides of, yes, Garwald, yes, Wayaki Way, not badly off, but yes, a bit of traffic down there, but yes, like it shows, it is clearly moving, so you're not badly off on that particular direction. And yes, let's take a look at these other parts. Yes, that's still Wayaki Way, pretty much okay at that point of Njugunas, pretty much okay. Westlands at Red Hill Park, pretty much okay. James Gishuru Road, here we are. Also going all the way, the Abba Place, okay, that is very, very much okay. Loresho Convent, Musongari, Embassy of the Republic of Hungary. I mean, all these directions, if you are headed that way, you are okay. Convent Road is equally so much okay. Let's move to this other side, just a moment. Yeah, we lost that one, but all the same, we're going to fix it. Worry not, because we're here to ensure that you are sorted. Where is the drive, Google? Yes, here we are. And yes, back, let's take us back to the spots that I'm in, that is Westlands, and come back to this. Oh, it looks like there's some bit of traffic on this side of Thika Road. Yes, Utali all the way going up to Drive in. Thika Road is not so good from town, actually. This is from, yes, is it? It's from town, actually. Pangani Place all the way coming to this side, or better yet from Thika, whichever way you want to look at it. And yes, Thika Road is not so good this morning, but moving on to this other direction, it is not badly off. Githurai, here, there we are, still not so bad. Going all the way to Thika, on this side, it's not so bad. Kahawa, all the way, Embu, Nairobi Highway, not badly off. I think that's more like it that you'd want to know of this morning, giving you the key roads. That is to tell you that we are at Kenyatta University. That's to tell you that, well, not so bad this morning. The ones who are using Thika Road are the ones that need to worry a bit. But all the same, you can always be rest assured that we'll be here to update you on what is happening with the road in the event that there is need for us to tell you something that is strange or something that is unusual. And on that particular note, it is now time that we cross over to the discussion of the day. It's very important that you're part and parcel of this particular conversation. Hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela. On standby, we have the guests of the day that are set to, of course, take us through this on matters education. The education specialist, Lawrence Otunga, is the one who's on screen, National Chairman, ECDE Teachers. And of course, right next to Lawrence is Joseph Wasihongo. Yes, the Luya in me has to come out today. And yes, Wasihongo is going to tell us more on matters education. Also, the gentleman on your screens, he's the national coordinator, Elimu Yetu Coalition. And it is crucial that we have a conversation in regards to matters education this morning. That's why we termed it necessary, especially at this point when officially we have that declaration on matters reopening of schools coming from the Ministry of Education. I do not know what they feel about this, but certainly that's what we're going to discuss this morning, even as we take a look at more and more that is happening or culminating in the education sector. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
Yes, and so much is happening. I guess we'll start from the very last aspect of matters education this morning. And yes, we have seen what is happening, and officially we have the dates of reopening. Yes.
Yes, we have the dates.
Yeah.
And they have been long coming. And I think after the presidential speech, it was evident that the ministry would actually come up with a timetable with regards to the reopening of schools.
Yes.
So the dates are out, and we have got a plan covering the 2020 academic year, right through to 2023. So the calendar is out, but the question is, what are the issues? Yes.
What are the issues?
There are a number of issues.
Okay, and yes, I think I'll loop in Lawrence so that he can also tell us what he thinks about this as we come to expound some more on these particular issues that we are raising, because I mean the conversation has to be now. I mean, if at all, we have to ensure that our students get, that proper aspect of matters education. It is crucial that we have these conversations right now. We get to address these issues that we are talking about right now. So Lawrence, what do you make of that declaration that officially we're going to have our students back?
Yeah, I think that was a very good step made by the Minister of Education, together with other stakeholders. Life must continue, and the learners cannot stay at home forever. COVID is here with us, and we only need to see how to live with it. I'm happy that the Minister of Education came up with the calendar to cover us up to the year 2023. Though I can say it is just an anticipation, because we keep on receiving the cases day in, day out, and we are not sure whether there will be a big change in January. So I can say it is better to plan ahead as we wait for what will transpire in the year 2021. Yes.
Joseph, do you suppose that we would have taken these measures from the word go?
In terms of planning is essential.
Okay.
So if what we have right now is a plan, we need to always have a plan.
Okay.
The only thing is that if you look at it from the right goal, I think we would have done better in terms of the management of the whole issue. Children belong to school. They belong and they should be in school. The greatest question has always been, is the school environment safe for them? If you look at it from that perspective, you can almost come to a conclusion that by the time we came out with the phased opening, when we had the first lot get in, the grade 4s, the standard 8s and the form 4s, on a sincere note, by even September, we were not prepared. And what I mean by us not being prepared as a country is that the schools hadn't been prepared. In fact, by that particular time, there was no single resource that had been taken to the schools. So what happened later, even by the time the TSC was telling the teachers, go and report in schools for preparation, there were no resources in schools. I am glad from the statement that the minister issued yesterday. He said something to the effect that we have learned lessons from the partial reopening, and we intend to improve on that. And if there is improvement, they need to make improvement in terms of availing resources to our key soldiers. And our key soldiers are the head teachers, the teachers down there. If the schools don't have resources, then it is very difficult to fight this war. Yes.
How much can be done in just a month or so to speak? I mean, January is just around the corner, Lawrence, and genuinely looking at that, we have seen on numerous occasions the Ministry of Health equally acknowledging that we are not ready in terms of seeing to it that we are able to roll in and have students back to school. We're talking about setting up new classrooms. Just how much can be done in a month or so to see all this implemented for our students to go back to school?
I can say that within the period remaining for us to reopen the schools, not much can be done, because we've had enough time from March, since the schools were closed, up to now. And if you look at what has been happening in the education sector, the CS education moving from one county to another, inspecting schools, not much has been done. And for example, the issue of social distancing in the school, that one won't be achieved. We must accept that. And you know, we'll have to go against some of the guidelines given by the health ministry, because now fighting COVID has gone to another level. There are some of the guidelines which must be violated, like the social distancing in our vehicles, in the school vehicles, and even in the classrooms and in the school compound. What can be done right now is for the government to see how the learners can be masked, how the parents can be advised on how to get these masks. If the government can offer a given percentage, and parents are also asked to give out a certain percentage of these masks, plus other issues which must be considered. I think it should now be a collective effort from both parents and other stakeholders to ensure that we fight this pandemic to the end. But when it comes to preparation, such as providing the physical facilities in the school, the extra classrooms, the desks, and other learning materials, that one cannot be achieved in the 1 month remaining for us to reopen the schools. We only have part of December and a few days for this month to come at one end. So what can only be done at the moment is to procure face masks for the government to release funds so as to ensure that these masks arrive at school and all other learning institutions at the right time. Let me say 1 week to reopening of the schools.
Let's be realistic for a second, and yes, I think what most of the people are questioning today is just how practical is it for us to be able to achieve some of these measures that again have been set by the same government. And you know, we are giving these directives when the city is broke. And when we're saying the city is broke, I mean even the government itself has, you know, exhausted the 3/4 of the resources that has been set to deal with COVID-19. Are we shooting ourselves to the foot?
To a certain extent, yes. And I would want to equate this situation with this scenario. Imagine you have a lake and it has a lot of water, almost to the brim. And next to it is dry land. And this dry land, you depend on it for food. So you need to utilize the water. But to utilize that water, when you open the floodgates, you must make sure that you have prepared the land in terms of digging channels, so that the moment you open the water to flow in, there are channels, and so the water can flow and can be of use to you. In October, when the schools were open, partial reopening, we just partially opened the floodgates. And when we did, there are all indications that the land can be flooded. Even though we opened partially, there are all indications that the land can be flooded. In less than a month, we are going to open the whole door. And you can imagine all that coming to this particular land. Now, are we prepared? Have we dug those tunnels? Have we prepared the land? We haven't, in all sincerity. Let me put it this way. Do you know we got into this battle after losing a third of it? Lawrence talked about guidelines. Guidelines have been prepared by the ministry. They are very comprehensive. Now, if those guidelines were implemented, very few schools would open. Probably less than 1% of the schools in Kenya would be opened. So in one way or another, we have to progressively implement those guidelines. But in terms of progressively and contextually implementing those guidelines, we need to see the three main attack options that we have. The wearing of masks, sanitation, and social distancing. The government has come out many times to say that social distance, forget about it. That one will not be realized. That's the reason why I say we're getting into a battle, having lost a third of it already. So we are remaining with only two things: the wearing of masks and sanitation. The ministry prepared a calendar yesterday, and the strength of the preparation of that calendar was based on a presidential directive. Now, what was not so clear even from the statement is when the president was making that directive, he didn't stop there. He said between that particular time and the reopening of schools, put these things in place. Now, look at how the government has dealt with the issue of masks. Yeah. Remember now we only have two ways, the sanitation and the masks.
And the masks.
For the social distance, we have lost the battle, but I want to believe we haven't lost the war.
Okay.
So that we are giving an opportunity for the government to invest in infrastructure within the timelines that it deems fit.
Yeah.
When you look at it that way, when you analyze government's commitment, this story of masks has been there long enough. But by the time, the time we are talking today, no mask has been delivered in any school, even for needy students. So what is there to convince us that between now and January, those masks will be ready?
Okay.
We have opened the floodgates. And we might be scared.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, that's sad to note. Even as we talk about this, we do not forget to talk about the special groups. And in this case, we're not talking about the special groups per se, but we're talking about groups like, private schools. We're talking about groups like, the your very own docket, that is the EC, the early childhood. It's pretty much important that we look at the fact that these are young kids that we are focusing on. And as the report would rightfully put it, we need to take care more of the young turks. We need to have more care on the oldies. And we also need to take care of the people who have pre-existing conditions. So of course, these special groups are indicated. We have young ones. We also have the teachers who could be pretty much old. And now, before we even delve into understanding whether indeed it's a good ground for them, the private schools, most of them have closed down. We have students who are out here and they do not know which school they will be going to come January. And we are also talking of a scenario where parents have lost their jobs. I mean, because if you have to transfer your kid, it means it's going to be more expensive than, on normal occurrences. Lawrence, in this particular case, do we just overlook?
We can't overlook. Actually, I know of teachers who've lost their jobs.
Yeah.
They have been at home since the schools were closed. I also know of schools which have collapsed as a result of the pandemic. So we must come up with the mechanisms on how to assist the learners and also to open up more schools, to create spaces in more schools.
Yeah.
Let me say, if there are public schools around where those private institutions have collapsed, I think we can see on how to accommodate them. And these teachers are now going to be like the health care workers because they are now going to deal with these children in each and every learning institution. And I think even the employers, be it in private institutions and even the county governments, because they are the employers of the early childhood teachers, they should come up with an idea on how to cover these teachers. You heard yesterday how the CEO, TSC, was talking about their employees.
Yeah.
They said that the employees have been assured of the health coverage.
Yeah.
And those who are 58 years and above should work from home.
Yeah.
And those with underlying conditions should also work from home. So I think there are things we cannot overlook, especially in each and every sector. Let the private sector come up with mechanisms on how they are going to assist their employees. The county governments should also come up with mechanisms on how they are going to assist these early childhood teachers plus the learners. Because if they fail to ensure that the teachers are covered, because I'm aware of some of the counties, they effect deductions, the statutory contributions, but they fail to remit them to the accounts, to the relevant accounts. So I think this time round, when we are now fighting this pandemic, all the early childhood teachers must be covered. All the centers should be provided with all the requirements as described by the Ministry of Health, so as to help us collectively fight this pandemic. We cannot overlook, because if you fail to concentrate in one of the sectors, or if you just say this is a mere private school, or these are just mere ECD centers, And you know, in most institutions, they work in the same compound with the primary section.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy with the CS Education because yesterday he gave out a calendar from the pre-primary one to the high school level. And that one tells you that we've really been fighting for the recognition of the preschool sector. Right now, when they speak, they must include the early childhood. So no sector should be neglected. No sector should be left to survive on its own. It is a collective responsibility by all the stakeholders to ensure that this pandemic is fought in all the corners, whether it is in private institution, because in some homes you'll find that one child is in a private institution, the other one is in a public learning institution. In the evening, when they come back together, they share the same house, they sleep under one roof, and when they go back to school in the morning, they go to different institutions. So let it be something we are fighting in all the sectors, because if you leave alone one, then it can cause damage to other sectors.
Okay, well, the health sector is ailing for sure, and we have seen hospitals being overwhelmed. We've seen counties arguing that they're being overwhelmed. Some of these schools have been used as isolation centers, quarantine centers for that matter. And we're talking about fumigation. We're talking about ensuring that all the students are able to be accommodated. Are we going to see a scenario where we'll have our students learning from outside?
Outside the schools. If we do not prepare enough,
yes,
and we will still have those centers playing those other roles, yes, it's going to happen. But of greater question, we need to address the issue of stigma. Because what if a school was a center adopted by the Ministry of Health to cater for some of these needs, then chances are the neighboring communities might even stigmatize the school.
It is true.
So the children going back to school there will be quite a hurdle.
Yeah.
You know, one thing, when I look at this thing, I realize that maybe the ministry is really not looking at this thing as really being a crisis. We are in a crisis. But when we come to adopting solutions, we are thinking about normally engaging.
Yeah.
And I'll give an example that the ministry did very well some time ago. There was this 100% transition.
Yes.
And during that time, you would see the momentum. I mean, everyone was involved.
Yep.
Including the former provincial administration, the administrators at the local level were involved to make sure that children were making that particular transaction.
Yeah.
There was a transition. There was a lot of momentum down there.
Right.
What we are lacking at the moment, we are lacking momentum on the ground.
Is it because of the fact that, well, it's sheer guesswork?
Partly, but also partly because we are not planning. We are concentrating on plans up here. Now, for example, we have got a good plan to try to address the question, how do we cover the lost time?
Yeah.
And we have seen that the plan that has been given, within a 3-year period, we can be able to recover that lost time. And by 2023, we are back to normal. But then that question isn't sufficient. At the end, we should ask ourselves, how do we recover safely? I am sure if they just added that word safely there, the government would be serious.
Okay.
Because in my opinion, they are not serious. If these things are not in school and we are opening in January, there is no seriousness there. So come January, when you get to January, is that the time they'll be doing tendering processes? Okay, I'm glad the CS yesterday said that the government has tons and tons of masks.
Right.
That is what he said.
Yes.
And they will be available in January. I wish that is the situation. But now, if you're conversant with what is happening at the macro level, then you ask, is it really true? Because we are having the health guys complain of not having PPEs, including even some of those basic things.
Yes.
So you ask yourself, is there truth in it? Or are we just speaking?
Okay.
We are in a serious crisis, but what we need is momentum. Because our soldiers are the teachers, they're the principals. we need to make them feel that they are equipped.
Yeah.
We need to have them feel that they are motivated. If they are motivated, then we have a shot at fighting this.
Right.
But if they are demoralized, if there are no resources, then we might just get into a much deeper problem come January.
Okay.
But we can open in January, but we must make sure that the safeguards are there. I think the government has the mechanism to mobilize resources to actually ensure that happens. What might not happen is the issue of social distance.
Yeah.
I mean, it is dreaming. Even if it is building of classrooms in 2 months, that is just not true.
Which is not something that has been declared, but I mean, can work, going to school in shifts work in any way?
Yes, it can work in any way.
Yeah.
But what is apparent right now is that the government is through with the first.
Yes.
Yes, it's now everyone is going there. So now let us address the issue with every child being there.
Yes.
Children belong to school. But there's also another important thing. That child that left the school in March, when it was closed, is not the same child who has come back.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the same vein, that teacher who closed the school
it's totally different.
Is not the same teacher who is now. I mean, you have come across the teachers now who are regretting why they joined the profession. So we haven't put in place psychosocial support. It is not in place. If that is not in place, we are opening in January.
Yeah.
We are dealing with a difficult situation. Yes.
All right. Lawrence, this is interesting, and now that Joseph here brought that aspect of stigma, was one of the key things that I would have wanted us to, deeply look into. Depression and anxiety is here with us, and we have 2 words that, probably define the pandemic experience today. And I mean, it is sad to speak because we're talking about students or girls who probably have been impregnated. We're talking about girls who probably are going to be named as people who had COVID-19. In schools today, the testing has turned out that, numerous of these people have been tested positive in schools. Some people have lost their lives as late as yesterday or as early as yesterday. We saw these students also losing their life in Kakamega, which is pretty much unfortunate. Within the family setup, we've seen difficulties, we've seen divorces and all that. So like Joseph will rightfully put it, we're not having the same student that we would have expected. We're not having the same teacher that was there back then. It's a whole hullabaloo of activities. What can we do, first of all, to bring the sanity, to look at these shadow pandemics that are in existence, as opposed to dealing with COVID-19, which is actually what has gotten us to this point?
Actually, it is true that the learners who closed the schools in March are not the same who will report back in January.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned that some of them have been impregnated, we also have boys who are already married and they have gone into other businesses, the juakali, fishing, and other activities. So what the institutions must now do is to come up with mechanisms on how to assist these learners in terms of guidance and counseling, because to accommodate a girl who is already expectant in a school environment is never easy, because she left the school in March while she was normal. She comes to school in January, whether the girl is in class 6 or 7 or 8, expectant. You see a different person. How is this child going to cope up with other learners in that classroom or in the school? So there should be a guidance and counseling, a functional guidance and counseling department in our learning institutions to help these learners concentrate in their studies, because we don't want them to be victimized. If some of the learners lost their parents as a result of COVID-19, then we should take time and talk to these learners on how to understand, to help them know that it is not a death sentence when one loses a parent due to COVID-19.
Yeah.
Because victimization must be dealt with. It is going to be experienced in schools. We have families which I know can never go back to schools where they used to learn, because maybe they lost their siblings, their children or parents to COVID. So all the learning institutions and even the government must insist that the guidance and counseling departments must be made functional in all the learning institutions to enable learners to cope up with the stress, anxiety, or any other related problem brought by this pandemic. And I want to tell you that it is going to be complicated because the cabinet secretary responded to the presidential directive which was given some days back. And if you look at that calendar carefully, you find that there's a period, I think, towards the national examinations. There's going to be that 1 week break, and even these grade 4 learners are going to be at home when the other classes are going to finalize their third term. So it is a period of around 18 weeks. A period of around 18 weeks, because there is 1 week before the exams, and then there is 7-week holiday, then there is 10 week for the other classes to finish their third term. So even if you are trying to get these learners from home, the parents should also prepare to be at home or stay at home with the learners who are currently at school, especially the grade 4 learners. And through that, they must now ensure that whether they are at home or at school, a proper counseling process is introduced to them. Yes.
Okay. Well, we have Gakuna Njima Castro, who is the President, Youth in Governance Initiative Kenya, joining us via Skype. You asked where the third person is, and finally he is here. Well, he's probably going to tell us why he's late, but all the same, it's important that we have him. Good morning, Castro.
Good morning to you, Linda. Sorry that I was late.
It's okay. But we're happy that you're here all the same.
Yes, I had some connection issues here.
All right, technology. I mean, but at least we're thankful to COVID-19 that today we are able to conduct a show. Well, it was there, but it's just that it wasn't adopted so much. So, but today we adopted willingly. So, Castro, the education sector is ailing today. We are trying to stay afloat. We're trying to address issues. We are all guessing. And at a point in time, the hugest blame has been leveled against CS Magoha. Do you suppose really that he should take up the blame, looking at how confusing the whole thing has been, not just for the country, but the global fraternity?
Okay, thank you, Rida, for having me. The education system or the education sector have been affected all the way since COVID-19 came here to Kenya, and not only in Kenya. It's a worldwide, or it's a global thing. And on our side, as Kenyans, it's our responsibility as students, as parents, as school, and as government to be able to catch up, or to be able again to try come up with mitigation measures on which we shall have our system back. CS Magoha yesterday made an announcement that January 4th, students will be resuming to school. And already we have some students back in school, the Form 4s, the Class 8 and Grade 4, yes, in school, they are continuing. But I would join the CS or the government in saying that we need our school to resume. Because we cannot say that we shall stay closed, or we shall have the school closed until when we shall have all the mitigation measures put in place so that students can go back to school. If you look at a country like UK, they are coming back, they have a second wave of coronavirus and they are getting back to lockdowns. But now, the schools are still running. We doesn't have the time or the time on when the COVID-19 will have already mitigated, or when we will not have much infections of COVID-19. But now what we should do and we should focus is how we shall maintain these measures of COVID-19, how will we mitigate the COVID-19 so that it doesn't affect students at school. It is on our responsibility as students, responsibility as parents, and responsibility as government. The government should provide the kits needed to maintain students safe at school. You know, school is it's the basic safety center for each student. So we should allow students to continue with education, and then we provide masks for every student to have a mask. And the government should do this, provide the mask to the students. Number two, the government should also provide enough funds, adequate funds, to enable the schools or the education sector to run effectively and without any blocks that we shall have any blocks brought about by lack of funds to mitigate this coronavirus.
Okay, well, and speaking of funds, it is the reality on ground is that parents are in that aspect of dilemma because one, they're thinking about the fees. Conversations have been that, well, let us try and adjust the calendar, and even as we adjust the calendar, have it correspond with the funds formula. Is it possible? Is it realistic? Would we even be genuine to say that, the government is going to cater for this and consider the parents who probably lost their jobs at this particular time and have a student in class 8, a student in form what, a student in class what. They have about 3-4 students who are supposed to go to school.
Yes, and that's the reason why I said I don't think the government is looking at this thing purely from a crisis perspective.
Okay.
If we appreciate it's a crisis, then we become very understanding.
Yeah.
Because what will happen at the end of the day, a lot of demands will be there. Even in public schools, for the students to pay fees.
Right.
And talking of funds, the government also has got to come out clearly in a matter that is transparent.
Yeah.
For instance, all of us know as far as the budgetary allocation for the education sector is concerned, the sector gets the highest allocation.
True.
About 29%
maybe right
of
after
the
health.
budget.
Yes.
The other sectors play second fiddle in terms of the budget. This particular year, it was given about 490 billion shillings allocation in the sector. This year also, the government or the ministry managed to get an assistance of 11 million USDs to cater for COVID.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we need transparency in terms of those resources.
Right.
Now, the bulk or part of that money, 490 billion shillings, is to cater for the free primary education and the free day secondary school.
Yeah.
Now we need that to be implemented smoothly. Now that is one of the ways of addressing the stress on the part of parents. Even if you're going to ask them to pay something, then that part of the government must be paid well. Funds should be remitted to school in time.
Yeah.
Now, when in October the schools were opened, when eventually some resources were pumped into school in the form of capitation grants, they were for primary school, about 20% of the funds were sent, about 137 allocation per child. And they had clear votes. Nothing was allocated to COVID. Now you see the government should come out clearly because it is out there that they received assistance in terms of COVID. How has this money been used? So we know the situation is tight in terms of finances.
Yeah.
But the ministry should also come out clearly to give evidence and to give assurance to people that the funds allocated to this sector is being used well. There's one thing I want to say. We talked about the school environment being safe for children.
Right.
Now, you can't dispute evidence. Now, that is the evidence that we have had.
Collected, yeah.
But there is this thing that we must be careful. We are making our assessment,
right,
comparing a post-COVID home environment and a pre-COVID school environment.
Okay.
The school environment has not been tested enough. I mean, the schools have just been opened barely, just 1 month.
Yeah.
And you already see what is happening.
What is happening, right.
Okay. Let us say the schools go for that length of time of about, is it 8 months or something like that? How will be the situation? We will be able to pick more evidence that might suggest the school is not also safe for for children.
Okay.
So what we are saying is, we are not saying children should not go to school.
Right.
Children belong to school. But we must make that school environment safe. And we become frustrated when we see that the ministry is not doing enough, is not giving the seriousness it deserves. Otherwise, we cannot have all the measures put in place, but we must at least see some effort being done.
Yeah.
Then even other players, including non-governmental organizations, the civil society, I mean, they're already doing this.
Yeah.
They will come. We have seen corporate social responsibility on the part of corporate entities. We have NGOs that are providing assistance out there, but we need to see more energy from the ministry, especially the momentum on the ground, so that we are assured our children belong in schools, and those schools must be safe. So we are talking about the school environment being safe, but we are comparing oranges and apples.
Okay.
Yes, that is another
That is another
perspective most
perspective.
people do not see.
Wow, all right.
Yes.
The CS, is he squarely to blame on how he's handled matters education, or equally the stakeholders in this time, or in this case we rule out the parents and we look at all the ministries, the teachers' employer, and the unions in how they have approached this matter?
Yeah, we've been having challenges with the CS education. I always know him as a bully.
Oh, yeah?
Because he's someone who doesn't believe in consultations. He cannot be advised. And he thinks that being a professor then is the source of all the ideas, the wisdom and knowledge.
Months down, do you suppose he would still be so rigid?
I've seen from other sources, they are trying to tame him.
Yes.
And they are trying to dehone him because, he's working with some of the officers who are even more experienced than him. And I can remember in March or early April, they used to say that we should count this year lost. Then later, the tune was changed.
Right.
That the year is not lost, but there's going to be a transition, a continuation of learning. I think he didn't consult the legal experts because, legally, repetition of classes is outlawed. It is illegal. So I think they're trying to avoid that. But we must blame the CS education because he has been changing his tunes, confusing everyone. Even this directive which was given yesterday, we are not sure if all learners will resume learning on 4th January 2021.
Yeah.
It is just an anticipation which has been given out to please the head of state. Anyway, we are aware and we want the learners to go back to school.
Yeah.
But where is preparedness? This government promised us the laptops for the public schools. Nothing has been achieved.
Yeah.
So far, the BOM teachers were supposed to be paid. A very big percentage has not been paid, and the funds were released.
Yeah.
We have the desks and other provision of other learning materials. So far, we are only seeing a drop in the ocean. So when we say that learners will reopen the schools in January, there is no proper preparation for reopening, and even in January, the schools are not going to be safe. And the Minister of Education, the Cabinet Secretary, is to be blamed because he has been confusing Kenyans, confusing parents and the stakeholders, even his juniors, insulting them, abusing them. In fact, he's even abusing the gray-haired officers. And I'm happy because from some corners, the Public Service Commission, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, they are now coming out strongly to tell him that you should be human enough and you are dealing with professionals and you are in charge of the health of all the stakeholders, be it learners, the teachers, and other curriculum implementers in the learning institutions. So we must blame him. But a few days ago, I've seen him trying to cool down. Yeah, I think he has been woken up by those other reactions from the Kenyans.
Okay.
Because you can't personalize the Ministry of Education. Everything must be done in consultation with all the stakeholders. And I'm happy with what the TSC director, the CEO, Dr. Nancy Macharia, she gave out with a proper guideline. You know, even these unions, some of them have failed us. Because the things which they could have started demanding months ago, they are leaving that one to the employer to come up with them. The unions ought to have come out strongly to demand for the health cover for all the frontliners, the teachers who are employees of Teacher Service Commission. And I'm telling you, as someone who is representing the early childhood sector, the preschool, we are going to work close with the county governments to ensure that there is that budgetary allocation. Let them even try and source for funds from elsewhere to ensure that these teachers are cautioned. Let there be medical cover for these teachers, because if you fail to cover the early childhood teachers, the child will land into problem. The problem will be transferred home to the parents and even to other learners in the primary section. So let the CS education work hand in hand with other stakeholders to ensure that there is smooth reopening of the learning institutions.
Even as we reopen, Jima or Castro, reality is that we've also learned that there are a couple of other things that we can invest in. I mean, in terms of matters education, we talked about virtual learning, which, well, in a way did not work well as expected, but reality is that that's where the world is headed. We talked about, community-based learning, which in a way has not been implemented as we would have expected. I mean, we also have noted lots of discrepancies in the sector of matters education. I mean, we are worlds apart. You realize that there's some students who are who are students who have so much advantage over others who live in different areas. Do you suppose then that out of these lessons that we've picked, there are crucial transformations that need to be done within the sector?
Yes. You know, the level of globalization here in Kenya is heading too low. Because not all students, as per se, are accessing the education or they are continuing their learning. Ever since March, when we went to a lockdown, or we closed the school, as some students have not been able to access their school facilities. Neither have they went for even online or on-site education or system. And when we look at that, we have not even actualized the community-based education, because number one, there was not enough resources that could enhance this system to continue or even to be initiated, because much students and teachers and parents, of course, they have used of students to be in school, but now they are back at home, and we are now initiating a community-based system which is not familiar with us. So we didn't know how many students that this community or a certain teacher, if there was, would hold. Number two, there was no resources that was allocated for such a community-based system to continue. I mean, the much of the backlash that we went through was a lack of funding that even the teachers could feel. I think this is not, it cannot happen, or it cannot continue. Number two, when we are looking at the online system of education, where much of the students now, especially the university students, are learning through, it was not effective. Even today, it's not effective. And much of the universities, they are not even continuing with the education. It has much affected most of the students, because number one, it also needs a cost. It is costly and very expensive, I mean, to maintain the students to still in learning.
Is it worth investing in, Oran?
Yeah.
Is it worth having us invest in the same?
With time. Yes. It's worth.
It is,
With the time, it's worth. But this emergency just came in, and we went for a boardroom meeting, and then we said education should continue on online or community based. But there was no structures that was made on how we can carry out this process, or we can initiate these programs. But with time and the level, the way Kenyan is going to be globalized, I think this will be effective. It will be effective, and we are now in a technological era that we are moving from
All right, I guess we lost him on that, but as we try and fix that, CBC. This happens at a time when we are shifting from this point to that point. And I think you've noted that, yes, at that aspect of transition, there was so much energy that was put towards seeing to it that CBC sails through. Well, equally, we had people who argued that maybe we were not ready as a country to transition to this other curriculum. But here we are, and that's the reason why we have class 4 students in school today. Do you suppose then that the government will be able to roll out this transition as expected, as initially planned? And I mean, what then will we have gone through in terms of witnessing differences that are probably going to cost us towards seeing this transition sail through smoothly?
First of all, I'm glad. I think in terms of planning, in terms of taking into consideration even the pilot students of CBC, like the grade 4s at the moment, I think the government has tried, the ministry has tried to put them into perspective. When you see the recovery plan, that has also been taken into consideration. So what that means is that as far as CBC rollout is concerned, it is going on in the context of the crisis. So, but in my own personal opinion, I think that the system was good, and going the assessment way was the right way to go. As a nation, we have suffered a lot in terms of looking at things from examinations perspective. It was the right way. And the approach that has been taken in terms of bringing it in, including even when it came to October, that class not being forgotten, but taken through a certain kind of transition. I think it's doing okay. And also, there is only, I was looking at the timetable that has been provided, and this particular class is going to be out of session for a 17-week period. In terms of, I mean, after around July, it's after March, it's going to be to stay at home. And I think I agree with Lawrence when he said that at this particular time, it's important now for the parents to come in and provide support. But having said that, I wanted to say something in terms of that question, that should we blame Magoha? Now, at the outset, I would want to say that we are dealing with a crisis. Professor Magoha cannot do it alone. But nonetheless, why are we placing focus there and saying the government is not doing this? Because education is a right. And it is only the government that has got the instruments of enforcing that right. So that's the reason why we should insist and see that the government is doing something. But we also feel that things could have been better. Now, if you look at the approach that the government did, the first moment this particular crisis came in, they developed a plan. And then they came up with a task force. As civil society, we had our own reservations because it was not inclusive. But putting that one aside, we feel that that task force does not have powers. It is toothless. We have had task forces in these countries that have been very, very powerful. The only question now is, when the lives of our children really matter, we give a task force an advisory function. They should have a coordinative function. They should be the ones who should be running around and coordinating processes of being in counties out there. We are dealing in a crisis, not to be mere advisors. So when the lives of our children matter, we say the task force, you advise. Yes. So in that particular way, I think we could have done better. So at the end of the day, we find that we have a task force. that feels it's doing work, but the momentum is felt at the national level, but there is little momentum on the ground. We could have done better.
Okay.
But ultimately, the responsibility falls with the government because we are talking about a right, and it's only the government that has the capacity to enforce a right. And finally, talking about ministry people, if we are talking about the government and the ministries heading this particular process, we want to see teamwork in the ministry. What is coming out in the media suggests that we are talking about
an individual.
We are talking about a disjointed team. We are talking about a demoralized team. We are dealing with a crisis. If you're dealing with a crisis and they are the ones that are leading the process, then the chances of success are very, very limited.
Wow. Okay, we're talking about equally a scenario where we do not want our kids lose an entire academic year. Transitioning or transitions from one class to the other. Learners will not have to repeat classes from what they say, or we struggle so hard not to see that happen. That is a declaration by the state. As a teacher, as a person who's watched, students transition from point A to point B, there are some of them who are quick to learn, would even tell them, transition from first term. But others take their time to learn. Just how practical will it be for us to have our students transition as expected and not have them lose the years dictated by the government?
Yeah, and just to pick from where my colleague left it from, he said that there should be a teamwork. A few months ago, the Council of Governors made a declaration that the early childhood centers will reopen 1 month after the full reopening of schools. After the opening of the primary section, then they will reopen the schools 1 month later. So there is no collaboration. I think these groups should come together, the Council of Governors, that is the employers of the early childhood teachers, and the Ministry of Education. They should come and speak in one voice because the calendar has accommodated the preschool learners. But the Council of Governors is telling us a different thing. So we are waiting to see what will happen. So when it comes to transition, actually the revised school calendar has given us a very, I can say it is a comprehensive guideline on how learners will be coming to school. And actually they have really tried to avoid the collision, the double intake in some of the years. And still there's going to be a problem because I said that reopening of schools in January is just a projection. It's just a guesswork. We don't know how COVID will be there in January. We don't know how many cases we'll be having in our schools and other facilities. So transition is going to work, but it is going to be faced with some challenges because there is problem of understaffing in most of the public schools. These gaps have always been filled by the BOM teachers. And if they were not paid, and they have not been paid in March, I'm sure that these teachers will not report back to schools in January. Actually, they have gone to other businesses. Some of them have gone to greener pastures. The government has lied to them that the money was released. A bigger percentage of teachers are crying to us day in, day out that they have never seen these funds. So this one is going to affect smooth transition from one class to another. And if some of the learners will be at home for around 17 weeks plus 1 week break as they prepare for the KCPE exams. There is going to a mess somewhere, but we hope that if these stakeholders will continue sitting together and inviting other stakeholders, like he has said, to help them with more ideas. That task force is comprised of some other individuals whom I think do not understand education very well. Actually, we expect all sectors to be represented, especially the early childhood sector and other sectors, together with the stakeholders from different ministries, should be represented in that task force to come up with amicable solution so as to fight this pandemic.
And as many would have argued, we've done a lot of copy-paste on, trying to figure out what we're going to do in different sectors and how we deal with COVID-19 and the ramifications that come along with it. Just how different is our situation in comparison to the education sectors in other different countries, of course, the global fraternity, other African countries, if we are to sit down and compare? Castro. We lost Castro. Oh, all right, we don't have him back. Yes, just how different is that as we get to wind up?
I think as we look at developed countries, they're pretty much doing okay. Some of the African countries, we could get challenges here and there. But somebody said the best competition is to compete against yourself. That's the best competition.
Right.
So we don't have masks. They are not in school. Why should we look across the border to see whether Uganda has given masks? No, let's fill that gap. The best competition is against yourself. And when you measure that, in the current Kenyan situation, we see we are wanting. Let us fill those gaps. After we have filled, then we can look across and see, okay, what are the others doing? But we haven't done anything on our part, something substantial. I'm afraid to say much of what has been done is verbal and assurances. We have tons of masks. That is the statement from the CS. Tons of masks. None of that. No box has appeared in school written vulnerable children and masks being inside. Nothing. But tons of masks are there. At the macro level, health workers are crying. We don't have PPEs. But a CS in a different ministry is saying we have tons of masks. So if we look at it from that particular perspective, let us compete against ourselves. And once we cover the voids against ourselves, then we look across. Because what is the point of us looking as to how Ethiopia is handling this and we are dealing with deaths in school in Kenya? Let's deal with it first. And then we look across.
All right. And yes, towards the last,
I want to believe that whatever you're saying is true. And the parents will also not wait for the government to give out masks. How much is one mask? In fact, if you look at the reusable masks, they are nowadays cheaper. And we've had enough time with these kids at home. Let parents take up the responsibility to provide these masks to their children. Because if you wait for something which costs 10 shillings from the government, you want to release your child to school without a mask, saying that the government has not released them. We are fighting this because if you fail to provide a mask to your child, the child will come back home and infect you. So you better protect yourself by providing this mask to the child, because this child is going to interact with several people in the school compound. And I also want to believe that the government, let them do as they say. We are not here to be taken round and round and round, being tossed left, right, and center. When they say they are masks, what is so difficult for them to go to the KEMSA and order the release of those masks to all the learning institutions? If they say there are tons of masks, yet they have not released them to schools, then they are just playing games with us. We want those masks to be released, and if the parents see that the government is not interested to release these masks to the learning institutions, let them buy these masks if they can afford the innerwear for their children. What about face masks? Face masks which cost 10 shillings. Let them value the lives of their learners and the lives of others.
My colleague Zainab did a story on how things are tough on ground. That she visited this family that was painting a picture, not really painting, but that's a reality, that they literally have one mask that they share as a family. In the sense that when the kids are at home, it's okay. If one of them wants to be sent to the shop, they take the mask, they go to the shop, they come back with it. Daddy wants to step out, Daddy takes the mask, this particular mask, and go out. And while it might look like it's a funny affair, one would want to ask whether it is just laxity on our side, it's just ignorance, or is it just exactly what it is that we say? Sometimes we do this simply because we do not want to be on the wrong side of the law, but in real sense we do not really see the essence of it. Or is it true, painting the picture, or truly painting the picture of the dire situation in terms of poverty levels and in terms of lack of all this money that we're even talking about, that someone would lack something as little as 10 shillings, you know? And Castro is here. Castro, we give you the chance to give us the last words. I mean, above everything, don't you think there are also some things that we can look at and say that, you know what, we have approached this in a good manner. We have made good strides. If we project it this way, if we take it, you know, if we continue taking this direction, then we'll have done well. Castro? Well, I'm afraid, Castro,
Yes,
we have
yes,
to say kwaheri. Oh, yeah? Let's drop that one and leave and allow the gentleman to react on this. 30 seconds, 30 seconds. This one thing that you probably think we've done well in matters education moving forward, if we were to maintain the same, then we'll have done well.
I think I know what the government has done. Okay. Now, it had a plan. It established a task force. It came up with online learning. It got into partnerships.
Yeah.
It developed guidelines, went around assessing schools and everything. If you look at it from the process perspective, you say that probably they had an idea of what to do.
Okay.
But the commitment behind it, nothing. Zero. So that part of laying down a process, they did well. This calendar that they have developed is well done in terms of answering that question, how can we recover the lost time and make sure we don't get into it is well done. But that calendar minus a concomitant COVID-sensitive budgetary plan around it is nothing.
Okay.
So they're getting things in theory, but in practice, because there is no commitment, nothing, we are not heading anywhere. Yes.
Oh, all right.
Yes, I want to believe that the government will improve. The both levels of government, the national and the counties, they will improve by providing the relevant materials in the fight against the COVID-19. And as I said earlier, they should do as they say, because if we keep on playing games with the lives of teachers and learners, then this thing will beat us and will clear every one of us. I want to also believe that once the government has released the funds, let them do a follow-up to those schools and ensure that the funds are doing what they were meant for. Let there be enough water in the schools, schools without water, let there be sanitizers, and the principals and head teachers of those learning institutions should ensure that each and every measure is being followed, whether in class or outside of the class, or as they get into the classroom, because we want a collective responsibility. If we leave it to the government alone, or to the national government alone, the council of governors or the county governments will fail. Let us see a support from the parents, from the learners, let them take responsibility, however young they are, the council of governors, and the national government, together with the other parastatals, because we want to ensure that this disease or this pandemic is fought from all corners. Without that collective responsibility, then we should prepare for a loss of lives in all those institutions.
Well, it's about you, it's about me, as the president would say, and as everyone else would acknowledge. It is important that we have that, self-approach to how we're dealing with this, and we all get to that point where we're saying this is indeed a collective responsibility. Lawrence Otunga, National Chairman, Early Childhood Teachers, thank you so much for the great insights, and Joseph Wasihongo, National Coordinator, Elimu Yetu Coalition. It was good having you this morning. The conversation continues on our social media platforms, and importantly, we'll still have this gentleman to talk more and more, even as we eagerly wait to see what will happen come